So picking up where we left off, our parts now had time to cure up and finish gluing. So now let's just basically undo all the restraints. Now with the tape, you want to be very careful, as even this stuff likes to stick, and so if you're not careful, you may accidentally break the bond. So just want to play it safe and not be too rough. If you do encounter places where it's can't get your nail, or if you're like me and don't have much of nails, using something like a pair of tweezers to help pick up the tape is a definite smart way to go. Just try and still be careful, especially not so that tape doesn't separate, and that just makes life a lot harder for you. The one downside of Scotch tape is that it does like to break easily. Okay, so let me get that out of the way. Alright, so now that we've got our part glued, and can't tell if you can see in the video, but as you can see along the seam line where we glued, there is a bit of a raised edge. So now to take care of that, we're going to sand it down. Now, for curved surfaces like this, I like to use these sanding sponges, which you can get at your local hardware store. They're very great for curved complex surfaces. And since this is a high grit, you just want to do as little as possible. You just want to do just enough. Even though this doesn't have raised edges like some kits do, especially older kits, you still don't want to mar the surface too much, as you'll very quickly start to lose detail. In general, you can pretty much just do a simple running of your finger along the seam line just to see it, and go by that. Now, obviously, type of finish you're going with will dictate how much surface prep you have to do. But in general, just a 1/over with some heavy, and then again with some lighter, is generally all you need to do. And again, you want to be careful, as I actually discovered some detail here. Just about sanded away. I realize that. Try to make sure I keep this on camera. But yeah, generally you just want to give it a quick 1/over along the seam line, just to get down a lot of the height and roughness. And you want to also keep using different spots of the piece of sandpaper or what have you that you're using, as it does wear down fairly quickly. How we're doing on time? Good. And yeah, again, since I had previously not dealt with the pore stubs, I'm going to do that now, since, as you can see, a lot of the places where the pore stubs were having to sand anyway, so there's no sense wasting time and effort to sand it twice, essentially. When once you can get the job done easy enough. Now, obviously, some areas are going to have more over edge than others, but in general, just my advice is just use a simple finger test. Running your finger along the edge is more than enough. And by far, touch is one of the most important tools. Just if it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. Okay, then I think I just about got just a little bit down here. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So again, you're gonna want to work down from a coarse grit to finer grits. Yeah. And you're basically trying to just smooth out the surface as much as possible. And an easy way to tell where you've sanded and where you haven't is by how glossy or flat the surface is. As an area where you've done a lot of sanding will be flatter, and areas where you haven't will be glossy, at least until obviously you start getting more polishing. Then the opposite is you can tell where you have sanded from the flatness and where you're done polishing by the glossiness. Now, as you can tell, we now have a bunch of, oops, missed a spot. Get that real fast, almost out of time. There we go. Now, an easy way to deal with sand or dust and such in panel lines is just take a brush and just run it along it. This is quick, gets and deals with the problem. So, out of time. So, just gonna finish this up and then come back next time, and we'll start working on the wings.